Hi, welcome to Custodian360. Today I'm going to run through how a particularly nasty little piece of ransomware called Satana, or the devil, or Satan, executes on machines, how it behaves, how it evades some traditional AV, so Windows Defender and Malwarebytes today, and Avast we're going to use, and then how we deal with it at Custodian360, how our underpinning technology from Sentinel-1 identifies and deals with that problem, and then how we would feed that back into our end users. So Satana is very much like the Petya and Misha bundle, works in two modes. The first mode, it acts like a dropper, it writes to the beginning of infected disk, a low-level module which is a bootloader with a kind of tiny custom kernel. And the second behaves more like a typical ransomware. So let's get running. We've got here a Windows Defender machine. I've got 3 VMs set up for us to have a look at this across all 3. So Windows Defender is installed and running and all looking well and good, and we execute our ransomware. So Satana is executed. You get the user command prompt that comes up, or user access prompt that comes up, and you click yes. Much like, you know, if the end user is downloading some software or opens an attachment. Very, very straightforward. If you weren't looking for this, you just wouldn't know it was there. So let's just click on here again. So you can see on the desktop we've got the Satana document. It loads itself on. We're running a little bit slow, probably allocate a bit more memory and get this speed up a little bit. There we go. Let's just have a little refresh. So there he is again. So just click on there, and this is the ransom note effectively. So bad luck you, God willing, all that kind of stuff. And pay the ransom, and in a couple of days you'll get the software to be able to unencrypt your data. Not so great. Windows Defender is still saying it's all good. If I go into the pictures, they're not available. None of them are there, or none of them are accessible. You see briefly they all had the same email address. They were all encrypted, and the email is the same across all of them. They all use the same code to be decrypted. The input is the same as the output in this case. So let's just have a quick flick through some process. We know it's run through. We know it's encrypting files. Is it easy to spot? Here's the thing. The answer is no. So that's not there. Let's switch over to the Malwarebytes machine. Exactly the same. It's exactly the same machine. They're identical builds. We're just running the Malwarebytes premium trial. Again, when we execute, we get the access box pops up. Let's have a look here. Important with Malwarebytes, we get the great big green tick, which is what we're all striving for ultimately, I guess. Probably in this case, it's given us a full sense of security. So let's just have a look at the photos in the pictures library, and we've got the ransomware note there, and yeah, lo and behold, it's come through, and again, the standardized email address, and encryption on the naming of the file, so when we open them, we can't get into anything. Not great. And exactly the same note. Right, so we've got to a point where we've got Windows Defender and Malwarebytes, 2 incredibly popular, very commercially viable, let's say, quite cheap solutions for end users to buy, especially if you're in a small business. As I'm flicking through here, looking at some of these folders, I'm just looking for examples here of where if we dive down, you'll be able to see that the Satana ransomware leaves itself all over the place. essentially I'm showing you here that we've spawned off multiple processes and changes and file changes, etc. But key here is that Malwarebytes and Windows Defender, even though we've got a second pop-up box, are telling us everything's okay. So let's just swap over to my Custodian360 machine. So we're running Avast on here. We're running the Sentinel-1 agent, which is underpinning our Custodian solution. And immediately as we execute that file, we get threat detected. So straight away we know there's something wrong there. That would be identified by the team back here in the office. The guys, the analysts on the help desk would get that immediately. Let's just have a look in and see what's actually happened. Normally we would expect ransomware like this, effectively zero-day ransomware, to be picked up in sort of 2 to 4 CPU cycles. So the amount of changes that happen are very, very small. So there's much less in the way of process going on. Can we see? No, Satana's not in there, so that's good. So it hasn't got that far. The pictures are still there, obviously, so it hasn't got as far as encrypting those. Let's just jump into the dashboard. So that's the test machine for the Custodian360, and we've killed and quarantined. That's the policy we've got set at the moment. If we have a look in the analysis page, there we are, kill and quarantine. So we've got a bit of information there at the top. Let's just have a quick look at endpoint connections. So immediately this is dialed out to 2 locations in Canada. Let's have a look at the attack overview. 6 processes, 2 file changes, 2 network connections, as we said, to Canada, and a registry change. And there's 1 persistency there, so that's important for us to see. And there's some really useful information for us there on the back to make sure that we can see what's going on the customer's endpoint. There's the registry change as well. No cloud data from public cloud to give us any kind of extra information around the threat itself. If we have a look here, we've got some file changes. There's the registry change, and there's some processes. So we've allocated memory to another process. We've written to other processes. Change permissions. So this is nasty ransomware. This is not going away. You can't do a rollback as you would. You can't turn it back yourself. It will be there. That's why I mentioned the tiny kernel when I was introducing. Look at part 3 of the process. It's executed its own image, but there's nothing there. So we stopped it at that point. It's already stopped. Excuse me. So we can hit remediate and send that command down to the endpoint. And that will unpick all the changes. There aren't actually that many. If you let that run through without stopping it, we would see hundreds of connections, hundreds of changes, thousands of changes actually, and thousands of file issues. So anyway, let's jump into analysis again. Quick look at the attack storyline, and let's pick out some bits of detail, and let's go back and have a look at them. And this is the kind of checking that the team do on the help desk. They would see the kill and quarantine. Our SLA is an hour for this kind of thing to get to a full remediation. They would just drag that over there, but there we go. So let's have a look and see if I can find these file changes. Just drop into here, and let's go app data. So the guys, like I said, the guys would be doing this without meaning to labour the point. We would check some of these changes, make sure that they've been undone and they're no longer there. And then at that point we would be able to mark this particular threat as resolved or benign once we know that it's dealt with. And that information then is shared across the network. Let's have a look at the registry changes as well. Like I said, we stopped it normally stops in 2 to 4 CPU cycles, so very, very quick. And rather than thousands of changes and hundreds of reg key changes, we've got one, which is pretty spectacular in this day and age. This is quite a nasty piece of ransomware. It's clever. I first saw this probably middle of 2016. We started seeing variants of Satana and the similarities with the Misha and Petra bundle. It was kind of ransomware in development, if you like, but it's grown and it's now actually a really, really effective piece of software, piece of malware. I can't call it software, can you? So let's have a look here. Can we see that we user 5 Windows. So I'm happy there's nothing there. Yeah. Okay, so we're good. We can see that there's nothing in that pane, and those changes that we've checked there would all appear to have been remediated successfully, and the machine is back to its kind of pre-execution state. It's safe. The issue's been killed and quarantined and removed. So, and then you can see there it's got kill, quarantine and remediate underneath the file name. So we can mark this as resolved. We'll just drop that down there, and that will drop it out of our mitigated active threat pane, and we'll return back to normal. So that's a quick look at Satana. I will do a few more of these. If you've got any more questions, please do reach out. You can get hold of me at kevinb@custodian360.com, or you're more than welcome to have a look at our website, www.custodian360.com. We've got lots of demo videos from myself and Andy, our technical director, and lots of collateral for you to have a look at. If you want to know any more about how the solution works and have a one-to-one deep dive, please do reach out, and I look forward to speaking to you.